So let's just take you through these three of the different scenarios. What we're going to do is model scenario number one is just an increase in national insurance contribution. We've seen a fairly substantial one in recent time over the last year, but you know, there is talk that there is a possibility that this might increase again. This could equally be something like tax planning as well. You know, again, with this talk that there's going to be an increase in the actual tax rates that are going to be coming our way before the end of the month. So this is really sensible, real scenarios that actually happen. And using Vena, we'll be able to model those changes in real time, and you'll be able to see the effect on things like the payroll. You'll be able to see that straight away. So that's going to be quite a good little scenario to start off with. Scenario two, we're going to take something slightly different. We're going to basically say, okay, well, it's a bit of a challenge out there at the moment. So we've decided to put a freeze on all hiring for the first quarter of next year. That might go into other quarters. It might be for the whole of the year. We're going to make it very, very simple and basically say, look, we're just going to do it for literally for Q1 of next year. And what you're going to see there is just the way that links together, which I think you'll find quite interesting as well. Our final scenario involves a slightly different situation. Our CEO is basically thinking off the wall a little bit now and basically said, look, what we're going to try and do, what we're thinking about doing is moving the whole of the business from London up to Manchester. Now, there's a number of different things that we can try and model here, such as rent and relocation packages, as well as, and then evaluating the headcount retention risks on there as well. We're going to keep it relatively straightforward. And so what we're going to say is that ultimately, as the business grows into Q1 and Q2 and Q3 of next year, all that we're going to do is make sure that all the new hires go to Manchester, not London. So again, number of different things there. So just to really briefly summarize, scenario one is a national insurance increase. Scenario two is a hiring freeze. Scenario three is that HQ relocation. Okay. And this is what that's going to look like. Okay. So you're going to see something that you're really familiar with. It looks like Excel. And that's really interesting because ultimately that means that the users absolutely move forward with tremendous user adoption, which is the important thing. I'm going to hand over to Jason. And I'm going to stop sharing now, and then we'll go and back to me for just a couple of closing slides as well. Jason, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Just going to start sharing now. Hopefully you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, you can see Vena Web. Great. So just to reset the scene very briefly. So our 2026 budget has been submitted and approved, and now we are tasked with doing some what-if modeling, 3 scenarios that Paul outlined not long ago. So to start with, we have some very simple administrative tasks. The first thing being that within our data model and within our scenario dimension, we want to create 3 new members to do this modeling. So I'm just going to navigate down in my dimension. I have a roll-up for what if scenarios. It's as simple as right click and inserting a child, give it pertinent names. What if NI 18 was scenario 1, scenario 2, what if what was that, Q1 freeze, and then the third, what if relocation. So here, those members have been created, but obviously, as they've just been created, they obviously are empty with no data sitting against them. However, we want to be using our 2026 budget assumptions as our basis, which we will then go ahead and tweak as necessary. So what we can do for that copy process is we have a versioning tool here. And this versioning tool is an out-of-the-box data copy process, which allows us to populate these scenarios. What I have here is a saved versioning configuration, which essentially is just a time-saving way of if I need to redo this versioning, I don't need to make the selections again. It's as simple as here I am missing my copy to scenario member, and that's because I just created them. Let's navigate to my what if rollup. Here we see them. I will copy to what if 18, I'll run that one, and I'll just run it 2 more times to have my budget data populating those 3 newly created scenarios. So my what
Jason,
if freeze.
while you're doing this, I'm guessing
Sure.
because you're clearly doing these individually, but I guess if we really wanted to, you could set this up so that you could run 3, 4, 5 different scenarios at any one time, could you?
You could reconfigure the setup of this so that, yeah, we'd do a
Yeah.
bulk copy.
Okay.
So here, those 3 have been executed. What we'll do now is just quickly have a look at our process history tab, just so that you can see kind of how quickly those processes ran, or just the status of them. Just allow that to load here on this second tab. Here, this is a history of all my processes, but what you can see here is the 3 versioning processes I executed just now, 11:45. They took, each of them individually took all of like 1 second to copy that base data into the what if scenarios.
That's really quick, isn't it?
Very quick. So
I'm
now,
glad. And just can I just say, I'm really glad you showed that because I wasn't sure you were going to do that. But I think what that does is show really quickly on the fly that because I'm sure like most of the audience, we sat through a lot of these demonstrations before, and there's a fair bit of smoke and mirrors sometimes. There's pre-canned stuff. What you're doing is very much doing this on the fly, so you can see the audience can see very quickly now just how well that and how quickly that's actually worked.
yeah, absolutely. Everything's being built from scratch. There's nothing pre-built in this demo. So that would be kind of the end of our admin tasks. 1, create your scenarios. 2, copy any underlying data into those scenarios. So now what we want to do is actually go ahead and begin working in our workforce template. And to do that, where I'm going to go to next is our contributor role. This contributor role is essentially my personalized workspace, which lists out all of the tasks and all of the processes that I might be a part of. So here we can see we've got some annual plan tasks, but we also have some October financial close tasks as well. On this occasion, I'm going to jump into my what if modeling tasks. We have various templates that I could work with. All, as you can see, the underlying file is Excel based. Here I am going to go into my what if modeling template. I check that out to begin a download. And then once it's downloaded, I can go ahead and open that. So upon opening, what's happening here is that the template is talking to our cloud database, and it's essentially checking for the permissions that I'm set up with, so that if there are any restrictions that I should only see the data for a particular account or a particular department, all of that will be applied upon opening.
I
So
mean, that's really important, isn't it, in with the workforce planning, because there's very sensitive data in here a lot of the time, and you want to make sure that ultimately the individuals that are seeing it don't have access to the wrong people.
absolutely. So on top of that, actually, we also, as a best practice, build out the workforce model in a separate model to your standard like finance GL data model, to have that complete separation of data and security.
Okay. I should have just pointed out to the audience as well that if there's any questions at all, please go ahead, and we'll try and either answer them now or respond to you afterwards. But please go ahead and ask a question. Sorry for taking you off piece there a bit, Jason.
No worries. So just some other things to highlight to you. So this choose box here, it's essentially asking me what slice of data do I want to be interacting with as part of this session. What I will show you is if I go into scenario, because we no longer want to do anything with the budget, I scroll down here to my what if roll up, and dynamically my 3 newly created members are there available to begin interacting with. So that all happens dynamically based on my administrative task at the beginning of this demo. So here, let's start with what if 18. And one other thing to highlight is until I press apply selection, you can see in the background, the Excel template is not populated. That's because it's based upon my selections here and committing those, that the template then goes to our cloud database to retrieve the relevant data. So let's go ahead and apply that. So as it said here, you can see on the right-hand side, it kind of talks you through the tasks. Now, this is a pre-built Vena template. It's built with all the very like common salary, bonus, and benefit scheme logic built in. So what we can do is, based on your requirements, if this template does meet, 50, 60, 70% of your needs, we can very quickly use this, or we can use this to kind of accelerate the implementation process for a workforce model. But here we've landed on the input template. This is just, the top section is our existing employees, and then we have a section below for kind of future hires. But for this one, this scenario right now, we're going to jump to the controls tab where I have my NI assumption. Here we have the original 15.05%, and we just want to change that to 18. As soon as I change that value, that's being triggered in all the relevant NI calculations that make up this template. So all that's left for me to do in that instance is to save this data back to the data model against that what if NI 18 scenario. And you can see here, as it's saving those data points back, it's also doing things like logging an audit trail so that you will be able to subsequently interrogate any changes and see kind of timestamps when those changes were made, if anything kind of is not as you expect. So next, I'm going to cycle through the other two scenarios that Paul outlined. So we simply go to our choose box. We're going to go to, where are we? Q1 freeze. What you'll see here, as this commits this selection to the template and pulls back the data, that 18% reverts back to 15.05 because that is part of the initial versioning that I did, which is our budget data. Now, to do the Q1 freeze, I actually want to come back to my input tab. And here I'm going to update so that any employee that is part of Q1, I'm just changing their start date. So this column AH is their hiring date. I'm changing that to start from the 1st of April. You can obviously build different logic here if you want to lag it so that it falls in exactly like 3 months later. But let's just keep it simple here. So February, March. I think that captures all of my Q1 starters. And then again, as soon as I change this data point, it's trickling into the subsequent calculations that are kind of driven by this higher start date. Again, I go ahead and save data. So once that's saved, I will then jump to our final one, and then we can then begin to look at kind of various outputs or two different forms of kind of getting to the data. Here, let's go to choose and jump to our final relocation what if. And what I'll show you just quickly is my control sheet essentially holds some assumptions for NI, but below here as well, we have a geographical weighting, maybe slightly unrealistic, but we're going at 20% weighting to London, and everyone else just gets a slight uptick of 1.3%. So in my input tab, again, we said the scenario was we're only impacting the future hires. Now across here, I have a flag. Where are we? 1 second. Oh, here it goes. It's appeared suddenly. So here, I just expanded this hidden section. Here, everyone here is a new hire in London. So now let's go and select Manchester, and we can quickly go ahead and update all of these future hires to be Manchester. And again, for this scenario, it's as quick as just changing that data point there. I go ahead and save my data. So that should mean that we have tinkered with the assumptions for 3 scenarios. Let's go ahead and see the outputs. Let me
Yeah,
just,
because I mean, ultimately, that's great that we've done the modelling. That we need to understand which is the right one to go for and make some decisions, and that's where we pass that on to the CEO for his update. Really, I guess, is it?
sure. So there's two outputs that I want to show you to start with. So one of them is available within your contributor role, so available to all end users. We have an ad hoc report, which is a very nice way of just quickly slicing and dicing your data out of a data model. Within this ad hoc report, all security is honored, so I won't be able to kind of navigate to anything that I shouldn't have access to. So here I have several data models, but it is in our workforce planning data model I want to look at. We can do simple kind of drag and drop into the rows and columns here. So here, all I want to do is look at my account. Let's make a quick selection here. I want to look at everything that makes up salaries and related. Let's just untick the roll up. And then what I'll also bring into the columns is all the scenarios. So we'll keep my original base budget, but we'll also tick my what if, excuse me, my 3 what if. So once I've made the selection as I need, let's refresh the data.
Okay.
And that is a very quick view of our data set. Now we can go ahead and we are in Excel. We're in your native Excel session. So we can do all the standard kind of formatting, all your typical formulas that you may require. You have full Excel functionality available to you. And then this file can be saved down, and also it can be shared with other users. So
I'm just super conscious of time, Jason. So I think that
sure,
if rather than go and format that particularly, because I think that's probably where you're going next,
yeah,
maybe you could just show. Oh, that's super. Yeah, look, I can see that.
sure. So this is called the ad hoc report, where you can quickly
Yeah.
slice and dice your data. But as you said, conscious of time. So I will just jump into a slightly more customized report next. This is part of my task. I have this workforce variance analysis template also available to me. I'll check this out. Let's go ahead and open this. So as I said, slightly more customized. You can obviously implement your company colors in here so that, you know, this might make up some monthly board pack and so forth. I will do London and all departments. And here, you know, very similar to what we had before. We don't have what if NI. We will choose, what do we have? Q1 freeze. After that selection, I'm just going to refresh it again. So that data comes through. And then you can add, you know, all of your usual visualizations, some spark lines, percentages, etc. You are in the world of Excel.